I'm your host, Lori Crever. Today's program, we're talking with author Dale Mattheis about his book, Exile to the Stars.
I'm a student of late antiquity myself. It's a period up to about 200 or 300 AD, around there, in that general area. Maybe as late as 400 or 500 AD. And I tried to recreate that on the planet Akedi. It gave me a medium in which to work. And I don't know, I thought making ale would be a lot of fun, and I thought I'd just put it in there. And it gives him, also, it's a way of easing him into the village. It acts as a way for to share a drink of ale right at the start, and not knowing what it is, and finding that, in fact, that's what it is. So,
I wonder, too, with this village, with this society that you created, you know, women have a great role. They're very, very respected and smart and strong.
Yeah.
Were you writing things in that you thought, you know, this is a way that things
could
be?
Yes.
You know?
It's the way I envision things could be between men and women. And you know something? I keep that up throughout the whole 6 books of the series. And I love it. It was one of the things that draws me on, because I could live in an environment while writing this, in an environment, in a world in which I want to live in, not the one I have to live in.
Yes.
And so I really do. And there are more strong women as the book goes along. And there's a book that's given over entirely to them. About 3/4 of the book. The 4th book is given over to family members of Jeff and Carl that they pick up along the way. So yes, it's extremely important to me to write that way.
Yes. Before you started writing the book, did you have a background as an equestrian? Because they're on horseback so much, and it's so detailed, that part of it, and the relationship with the horses. I mean, that horse of his has his own
I don't know where Cynic
game going on, you know.
I don't know where Cynic came from. I just started laughing when I'm going to do this. I said, I have to write this horse.
He's great.
He's a cynic. He's this sort of a highfalutin, somewhat acerbic horse who's always, he's sort of for himself, basically, and he'll never admit that he could be concerned about anyone else. So yeah, I don't know where Cynic came from. No, I don't have much of a background. I rode as a kid. I was in Iowa and South Dakota and those states. As a kid, my friends and I would go and rent horses for the day, but that's about it, actually. But they're another intriguing species, actually, and I really enjoy just even thinking about horses are fun. I'd always thought horses were chicken brains, and I know that's going to probably irritate some people, but they aren't. They're really quite intelligent creatures.
Yes.
And you just have to understand them on their own terms, like you have to understand wolves on the same terms, on their own terms.
Yes.
You can't make them what you think they are. You have to deal with them as they are. Yeah.
How about with the battle scenes? Where did you get ideas on that? Because, you know, I was talking about the horse now. There's so many parts where Jeff is momentarily vulnerable, and Cynic is the one that pulls them through. I mean, it's so integral to them surviving these various battles, and the night attacks, and the sneak attacks, and the camp getting raided.
I have a military background. Although it's not a combat as such related background, it's a military Navy. I was in the Navy for about 6 years. I was in you might say, a combat environment, but not the environment in which bullets were zinging around your head. It was in submarines for about 2 or 3 years. And I just came to respect the military a lot. My dad did go through World War II, a lot of stories there, Korean War, and I came to appreciate anyone who served in the military a lot. And it's a challenge. It was the most challenging part of writing, was trying to get the military scenes correct. And that's within the theme of trying to make everything I write believable, that you could see that it could happen this way. Not sugarcoating it on the one hand, but avoiding the beastly aspects as far as possible. You can't avoid all of it, but it's not my point to be gruesome or just to kill people randomly. But a battle is a war, and there's no getting around that. Yeah, and Cynic does pull his fat out of the fire on a number of occasions, just like Belko, the wolf, young wolf does, and just like Jeff does for them. And they're sort of an odd couple, Three Musketeers, actually. If you look right, they work very close together.
There's also an aspect to the story that, to my way of thinking, was almost like a samurai with the enemy, and the interesting relationship that comes out of Jeff recognizing who the commander is on the other side. Yes.
Yeah, Lingo Bullet was his opposite number from a country called Salchisia. They were the equivalent of the Romans in our own world history of Central Europe when they invaded the southern part of Europe anyway. And they are, Lingo Bullet is the Seljuk who is bringing a relief caravan and more armed forces north to try and reinforce the siege of the town of Rugen, which Jeff represents, and he and his Lieutenant Helwin are trying to defend. And in the course of a campaign, a running campaign on the prairie in the middle of the winter, Lingo Bullet and Jeff form a really deep respect for one another. And it's one of the key moments in that book when, in fact, they both know one of them is going to die. And in spite of the fact they respect each other so deeply, they both have their duty. Neither one will shirk that duty, and they will carry it through to the end. It nearly kills them both, and in the end, it is Lingo Bullet that dies. But it's a very near thing. And that theme is also carried out in later books. It's trying to look at the enemy, not just always as insane killers, but as people with lives who maybe not be doing exactly what they want to do or like where they're at, but they're doing their best. That resonates more perhaps with World War II and some aspects of other wars than it does with our contemporary scene. It's pretty hard to deal with terrorists in the same sense as that. But for this book, for that scene, that's the way it was. And that's the way it was in the medieval period too. It was a war of gentlemen. Well, this is not exactly the war of gentlemen and nobles, but it is a war of people who are professionals and not doing it because they want to destroy an entire culture. That's what their duty is and what they're ordered to do.
Yes. Also a through line in the story is the tremendous impact of the merchants and the flow of goods and trade and money.
Absolutely.
How did you get inspired on those characters? Was it over the years, just thinking of, because there's a couple of them that are very unsavory and really behind the scenes and just, destructive?
Yeah, Belstan. He's a character. Before I started writing, I actually had operated a small business for 13 years. And it was a near-death experience. And I have the utmost respect for every other small business entrepreneur who does it. And I felt pretty good that I had survived for 13 years in it. But I learned a lot. It's a very rough and tumble world.
Yes.
And you learn during that time just how vital commerce is to any part of society. And without it, everything dies. And I ran across Belstan in this story, and then he started writing his own characters, what he did. And he's a character. He was just a character. And then, of course, his buddy Rogalf and their family and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So tell us about the Chronicles. We've got just a few more minutes, but you've been intimating that there's other books coming up.
Right. There are six books in the series. When I first started writing, I wrote 4 of the books right in a row, back to back, because I really wanted them to resonate as a saga. I see the
Alarai, right?
The Alarai Chronicles,
okay,
and I wanted them to, each volume, to be a part of the saga. You can read each book and be satisfied, but it's really a saga in 6 parts, is what it is. And I'm currently writing book 5. Volume 4 is already done. And now I'm on to 5. And that's 4 is the penultimate series, and there's 5 and 6 to go back to Earth.
Oh, wow.
And it's the adventure of how they find out, and the families they pick up along the way. They both become married, their children become involved later on, and it's the war, invasion problems, it's the duty, it's responsibility, and it becomes clear that they have to return to Earth, which they do in book 5 and 6.
Oh, this is so interesting. Right, because he does, in this first book, he gets a few reports about what is happening on Earth.
Exactly, from his
and it's really devastating, but then he's got his own problems and burdens to solve.
He does.
With the war that's happening on this other planet.
He does. And which is one of the problems he fights with the law. He says, come on, enough already. I'm supposed to take care of the problems here, then I'm supposed to go back to Earth and take care of that too. And what he learns is that he's being trained on a kitty to return to Earth and take care of problems that spring up there. So Yeah, and the fifth book, they find the way back, and I've been looking forward to writing that fifth book for over a year, and now I'm into it, and I am just loving it. And then the sixth book, they actually arrive back at Earth, and that's the ultimate book, the last book, and closes the series.
Mm-hmm.
It does that. And it's going to be fun. I am really looking forward to finishing, not to finishing, but to writing these two books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already mourning to an extent the fact that I'm going to be done writing them in only one more book.
Well, I can imagine, because
Yeah.
they are such wonderful characters, and
Thank you.
it is plausible. I mean, you do such a good job of pulling us into this completely other environment, and he's got the telepathic communication that he experiences with different animal groups.
Right.
And, you know, his relationship with his wives.
Yes, wives.
You know,
Two. That's something else I fell into.
It's so interesting.
And I said, why not? I says, why not? What would happen? This is not Earth, Dale. Go ahead and do it.
Right. No, it manifests itself in such a believable,
Yeah.
plausible way.
Yeah.
It totally works. It's a great story. I congratulate you.
Thank you.
And continued success.
Well, I really appreciate that. It makes all the difference for me, Lori, to have people really enjoy what I write. It's the ultimate purpose. It's the only purpose at the end, to have
Yes.
people read it and enjoy it. It
Yes.
really is. Yeah.
Yes. Well, great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
This is Lori Crever signing off from another edition of 30 Minutes with the Author, inviting you to read a book. It could change your life, and let's encourage our children to do the same. Thank you.